All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tutorial 11. So it's basically the final tutorial before we're going to go and start talking about the final exam next week. It's very good that you guys got to this stage. There's a lot of work that you guys have to do week in, week out. And now basically we are going to be having the final exam that is going to be happening very soon. So make sure before that you submit your assessment. Please make sure you submit that assessment by next week. By this week. It's due on Sunday this week. So please make sure you don't submit your work late to avoid any potential penalties. We want to basically avoid that at all potential costs to avoid any wastage. So please just try to make sure you include all of that information very early on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start by talking about the various approaches we spoke about in terms of delivering project management. We spoke about Scrum and we spoke about Kanban. And I believe this sort of screen is one that is actually very, very appropriate because when we talk about final exams, a lot of time we kind of try to go and try to find comparisons. So we want to go and find and present any particular ways where you can actually go and compare various things together. So we want to encourage you we want to basically encourage you to be able to go and learn and read all the information that we've done in the assessments, because the assessments talk about, involve, let's say, traditional project management and agile project management, which are two very key components that you are expected to go and be working on and demonstrating, very well as part of the final exam. So when we are talking about that approach to Agile and to Scrum, and that comparison specifically, it's very important to be able to show me in the final exam that you are able to go and compare various concepts and providing detailed answers to be able to really go and get the best possible answers. So please bear that in mind very well and make sure you are actually incorporating that into so much details. We talk about, if we talk about Scrum and if we talk about Kanban, if we talk about, Scrum, we talk about regular fixed length sprints. We're talking about something that we go and deliver regularly. That is, for example, once every go and 2 weeks. If we talk about Kanban, it is a bit different. Kanban is really more about the continuous flow of things, something that keeps on being delivered, point in, point out all the time. You're not actually working on a specific sprint. You basically, as soon as you finish something, you bring something back into the Kanban board and you start working on those tasks at that particular point of time. We talk about releasing. When do we actually go and release? Well, we release things at the end of each sprint in a Scrum environment. Well, when I talk about Kanban, things are not actually released very regularly. Things actually go and take time. Things don't get delivered, necessarily at the end of each sprint. But when I talk about Kanban, it's just more about we always deliver. Like if something gets completed in a week, we basically deliver that in a week. If something gets delivered after 2 weeks, that's when we go and get delivered. It's different than the traditional where we don't deliver regularly. And it's also different from when we talk about the Scrum, where we basically create sprints and we try to deliver things within any particular sprints. When I talk about the roles, okay, there are various roles that are available that we need to go and know about. Like you have a product owner, you have a Scrum Master, you have a development team, all of which need to go and actually have work completed to be able to go and get the job done. For example, the product owner is very much clearly responsible for ensuring things are being done in terms of prioritizing what are the various features or various backlog items we would like to go and deliver at a particular point of time. So we basically go and think about that in terms of the role, the product owner. If you go and think about the Scrum Master, the role is more about the coach. It's going to basically all about, guiding people to be able to go and get, more about when we're going to go and deliver things through. Like we're going to go and talk about guiding people helping them, providing them the actual skills and the knowledge they need. If someone is stuck, it's about saying, how do we go and actually help you to go and get that knowledge? So it's really about, you know, trying to go and get that particular outcome to be able to go, you know, and helping people to get the right goals delivered. If we talk about developing team or the Scrum team, what their role is more about ensuring we are working at any point of time. You know, we are, you know, getting on with the job. We are getting the task delivered within the job to be able to go and ensure that, you know, let's say the sprints or the features that we said we would like to go and actually deliver at any particular point of time, those features are actually being delivered. So that's what we need to go, you know, that's what we need to go and bear in mind in terms of that perspective. But when you talk about Kanban, you don't have any particular roles. Like there's no required roles. You know, whatever you can do, whatever we need to do at any particular point of time, people will get on with the job, go and actually try to deliver it. But there's no specific role like we're talking in terms of the Scrum environment. If I talk about the ceremonies, you know, in Scrum, we're talking about, you know, planning, review, retrospective, you know, daily Scrum meeting. All of these things are things we do regularly in terms of the Scrum environment. In Kanban, we don't have any sort of this kind of specifically defined meetings that we need to go and do. In the artifacts, we're talking about the backlog, the sprint backlog, the burn down chart, what we look at. And in terms of the Kanban, well, we have the board. We showed you the board. We showed you how you draw the board. You guys are using the board as part of your second assignment through Slack. What's the system? Trello. So you basically getting used on using the Kanban board, getting used on doing all of these Kanban cards, and basically being able to go and get the right outcomes. We're talking about measurement. What do we measure? You measure velocity. You know, how quickly can we actually go and get a job done? Like how much work can we actually complete within a particular period of time? When we talk about Kanban, we're measuring lead time, time between when we give you, let's say, a task and when you finish a task. We talk about cycle time. We talk about work in progress time. I haven't been able, you know, to think about these measures in details, but it's about really thinking about all of those important measures like work in progress. How many items are actually currently in progress in that Kanban board? The reason why is because usually in each step in the Kanban board, you are limiting how many items you can really process at any particular point of time. So you basically go and incorporate that specific measurement to be able to go and get a guide on what we can deliver at a particular point of time. When we talk about the change philosophy, you know, we talk about Scrum is about teams should not make changes during the sprint. You can change after, you can change your teams, you can, you know, get more people in, that's fine, but not during the sprint. When you're working on a sprint, you have to go and deliver things within a particular period of time. But when you talk about Kanban, change can happen at any time, not simply during a particular sprint. Like you can actually, if you basically believe I can go and get some team members out and get new team members in, well, if you believe you can do that at a particular point of time, that's great. You basically start doing that and you make the change and you continue working with what you would like to go and try to do. So that's a short sort of comparison between Scrum and Kanban. And I'm sure you could work and create many more tasks relating to comparison. For example, you could go and compare Agile with traditional project management. If I ask you any question in the final exam about that, you'll be able to go and show all of these comparisons and try to go and provide a lot of details that, you know, that we might actually not, that you might otherwise not actually be providing. So it's very, very important to provide all of this detailed information and guidance and focus on depths basically in your final exam to be able to go and really get the best possible outcome. Now, just a quick reminder, this is really, a lot of today is really about reminding you about some things that we needed to go and do previously And it's also about giving you the chance to go and do the quiz, as well as giving you the chance to go and get asked more questions in relation to your assignment. So I just want to remind you that there are 3 examples assignments available on Moodle. They are available under week 9. One thing that is really, really important, you cannot put a product backlog without putting a acceptance criteria. If you have a feature, how are we going to be verifying that a particular feature was actually delivered? Without that feature, without ensuring that the feature has been delivered, we are going to actually be having a problem in relation to that item. So it's very, very important you demonstrate that you actually manage to go and think about how are we going to go and verify that any specific feature or any specific item that we were asked to go and deliver has actually been considered in terms of the details and you know, the acceptance that is needed, the testing to ensure that what was supposed to be delivered was actually delivered. If some individuals don't contribute, and I'm finding a few already, there are very, very heavy penalties that will apply. We've had instances in the past where people got a 0 because their contribution was very, very minimal comparing to everybody else who went and contributed. So it's very important that you make the contribution that is expected and the contribution that is required to be able to go and really get the right outcomes. With no contribution, you won't get the marks that you need to go and get. So please make sure you're contributing well to get the right outcomes. There are good examples of activity report. I just want to remind you that I recommended something very, very specific. What did I recommend? Well, I recommended in one of the earlier tutorials, just close that, I showed you in the tutorials something along the line of the shell template, and I showed you 2 ways where you can demonstrate the work that people have done. I want to clearly see the contribution and the name of everybody. I want to clearly see the details. If someone did a 10%, they haven't contributed. If someone had 0%, they haven't done any work whatsoever. I need all of this to be recorded, and I need it to be in a table. I need it to be in a percentage like that, because I need to be able to very easily assess what everybody have went and did, what sort of work everybody went and did at any particular point of time. So please make sure you are actually putting all of this information into context, and you are actually showing the clear contribution percentages and providing clear details throughout the section and incorporating that as part of your work. So please don't forget about that particular thing. We remind you that you know, there's 12 marks to go. So introduction and conclusion, agile charter, project backlog, evidence of simulation, press sprints, all of these things. But I also remind you that there's an appropriate comparison of methods. And I am really, really thinking that that comparison across methods is something that is going to be valuable, if not very valuable, in my opinion, for a final exam. If I was the coordinator, I haven't seen the exam paper. I don't know what's in, I don't know what's out. But if I was the coordinator, this would be something I would definitely want to go and incorporate and include as part of my work. So it's something to really go and bear in mind at that particular point in time. So you need to create all of these acceptance criteria. I told you before, I just don't really like the stories and how they're written as an acceptance criteria very clearly. But I also showed you a few other examples that I want to kind of refer to now for the benefit of everybody who might actually not have seen that. So we've written a number of user stories, and I showed you, you guys have developed those stories for me in the classroom. And we spoke about the first thing, you need to go and define who your users are. Like if you want to write a user story, who is the user story about? Is it about a buyer? Is it about seller? Is it about whoever? And define what that user is. Then after you define who are your users, then you write a user story. So you can see here as a seller, okay, as a buyer, you know, the user stories about those particular people you've defined. As a seller, I want to do something to achieve something. And you can verify that that something has been delivered by making a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of things that you need to verify, or by writing a paragraph. The seller adds the item to sell. Then suppose if the buyer buys the item and pays for the item, the seller should receive the confirmation and the payment. The seller is paid. The user story is verified. So you go and create some sort of a way to go and verify that the user story has been delivered. But these are, you know, how do you write a user story as a user or as a seller? I want to do something to get something. And if I go and look at this slide here, this slide is good, but it doesn't really write the user story in the proper format, and it doesn't really write the acceptance criteria in the detailed manner that needs to be required. So my recommendation for you is to make sure you are actually spending your time to write those user stories in details and write the acceptance criteria before going out there and incorporating all of these as part of the actual assessment section that we would like to go and deliver. Story points are an indication of work. You know, think when you use them, they are a relative measure of how much effort is actually involved at a particular point of time. So while some user stories might be very difficult to go and do, some user stories might be a bit more easier for us to be able to go and actually achieve. So there's obviously YouTube's available that you can look at them in terms of how do you write the story points. I'm not going to go through them again now. We've already been through them. But if you haven't been through them yet, my advice would be to you, why don't you go to Moodle? I think they might be in week 9 or week 10 and see all of those videos that has been loaded there in relation to various story points. We talk about marking. You know, there's a section 5, something that is totally new. We need to do a comparison between Pinbook and Agile methods. It's, you know, very, very important, very detailed. You can compare various things like quality, risk, time to complete, productivity, whatever they are. Use references appropriately, and you may basically also use a table. So about 300 words. And what I recommend you do is what I showed you previously. You go to some particular maybe databases, you know, EBSCO databases at university. And what you do there is you are able to, you know, incorporate that information. Then you'll be able to go and yeah, just, you know, find the information from the literature, incorporate that in your assignment, and then bringing that information very clearly to, you know, to your final exam potentially. So just make sure you think about that information into so much details. Now we spoke about the shell template. I just opened the shell template. That's really from the outline again. So you can see here, this is the sections. You know, first, your group leader is required to use the core cover sheet. Secondly, you know, the most important thing, you need to hand in your work to Moodle. We talk about executive summary. Executive summary usually go before the table of content. You can create an automatic table of contents. If you're not sure about that, you can ask. I'll be happy to show you. You try to create introduction, charter, detailed table about the, you know, backlogs and acceptance criteria. Show that there's more than one sprint. If you can show even more than one stage of a sprint, that will be even more better. And I hope you go and do that. Comparison of Pinbook versus Agile, group activity reports, and basically picking up conclusion and so on. So basically, I am picking up on the information that is available on Moodle. Just going to load the Firefox. So that's really where it is. If I go and take you guys to Moodle, my advice to you is you go to this page and you'll be able to go and find some particular information. Where is that document? I'm going to go down. I'm just trying to find that page. Okay, so that's here, the shell template. So that is the document that I was just showing you now that we need to go and actually do at a particular point of time. So just look at that document. It's basically the same one, but I've actually incorporated an extra part of it, which is that component about the activity report. Instead of doing it like this as a text, I actually made it in a way that it's going to be much more easier for anybody to go and really judge contribution. I made it in a way as a table. So please make sure you are actually looking at it in that perspective. There is a table, there's a percentage clearly written, there's a contribution clearly written to be able to make things be very, very clear and obvious in terms of how we are doing, going to do specific things. So any questions, guys, about the shell template? Anybody not sure what they need to do? Obviously, the summit is due in a few days. Anybody not sure about any of the information I've just communicated? Anyone at all? Okay. All right, I'm gonna move on. So guys, any questions you know, about the 3 sample assignment loaded on Moodle? We've actually loaded them all. We went through them into more than 1 week. Any questions about any of the questions or any of the samples that we've loaded for you on Moodle? Is there anything about them not clear? Okay. Just want to remind you that those assignments were not about the same case. They're totally different and they're only there for illustration. They're only there for you to be able to learn how things needs to go and be done at a particular point of time. I want to remind you that anything to do with Turnitin will actually capture what you're doing. We'll capture that information. So please make sure you are capturing any potential of misconduct. You are actually editing everything, using things in your own words to be able to make sure we get the right outcome. We don't want any problems where you will actually miss out on key important information. You do plagiarism, you copy something, and then you get a big, big loss of marks. That's the last thing we would like to go and see. So please make sure using your own words into everything you go and actually upload. Remind you again that the comparison part of the assignment is new, so don't miss it out and make sure you do it correctly. There are no questions today that we are covering as part of the tutorial. I might actually give you a bit of an exercise after we finish the quiz, but that's only something that I'll do a bit later. I wanted you to make sure you're focusing on your assignment, do it very well, hand it in very well before Sunday, before midnight. We're going to commence the exam preparation. You will be assessed based on weeks 1 to weeks 10. YouTube's lectures, group assignments, tutorials, everything is basically on scope when it comes to these particular items. So to really start guiding you in terms of the final exam preparation, I would like to go and play a couple of videos to you relating to that. So I'm going to just... I've already organized them there for you. So I'm going to just make them ready. And I would like to play those videos for you now, guys, one after the other. So they're about 7 minutes or so combined, but they're basically valuable. So I'm going to just open the first one now for you guys. So just please pay attention to...
What time is the quiz?
The quiz is going to be potentially after we finish this.
Okay.
I'm probably going to give you a break and then we'll do the quiz straight after. And then after the quiz, we'll be able to sit down and do other activities that I might actually want to make available. So that's what it is. Any other questions? Siobhan, anything else?
No, I was just waiting for the quiz.
No worries, that's fine. All right, guys, I'm going to just play those for you before I start the quiz. So please listen to that.
A request I got from one of my viewers, and the name on YouTube is ASOS Xiao, if I am pronouncing it correctly. So hello, this video is for you. Basically what the person asked me to do was a video on how to study or how to prepare for an open book exam. Now I think I've had open books exams at least 3 or 4 times in my life, and I absolutely hate them because I find that they're the most tricky. But I did come up with kind of like a system on how to prepare for them. So hopefully you are going to enjoy this. The first tip I have for you, and that is read the material. I know some people, first off, I know this is kind of like duh, but I know a lot of my friends, they just were super excited when they heard, oh, open book exam, I don't even have to read anything. I'll just bring all my books and my notes and there you go. What happens, happens. The teacher knows this. They know that some of you will do this. So what the professors do is they make the questions pretty tricky, so you don't have time to read the material while you're doing the exam. They want you to answer quickly. So read the material, read the book, read your notes, and be familiar with the material. Second tip I have for you is understand it. So it's different studying for an open book exam versus a multiple choice test, because a multiple choice exam is basically remembering. So if, I don't know, the majority of my multiple choice exams are just like, okay, this is the term, and if you remember the definition, you're gonna do A-okay. Whereas on open book exams, the professors really want you to understand the material. So the questions are not going to be straightforward. So if you go in the exam expecting to be like, oh, like I'm just going to copy, paste what the book says, you're going to be unpleasantly surprised. So definitely understand the material. When you study it, make sure that you're able to apply what you read. Mostly when it's an open book, it's just application. So the professor would give you a situation or a term or like something that requires you to apply what you've read. Moving on to tip number 3, which is organize all your material. This will save you a lot of time when you're in that classroom writing it down, because let's say a question comes up and you can't find it in the book. This is like typical for open books exams. You cannot find the answer. You cannot find what you're looking for because you obviously are allowed to bring your textbook, your notes, etc., etc. Don't make it messy. Make sure everything you bring for the test is well organized. It's like clean, crystal clear, and just in order, so you won't lose time just looking for what you need. For looking for the information that you require to answer the question. So make sure everything is organized, ranked, and use bold colors, use highlighting, and anything that can help you keep everything in order. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's time. So you don't want to rush, because if you rush, you're going to stress out, you're going to freak out. We don't want that. So keep it clean, keep it simple, and come prepared. And the last tip I have for you guys in regards to this topic has saved me loads of times. If you're someone like me that is very visual when you study, this is like the best tip I have for you. What I do when I study is I make myself kind of like a perceptual map of everything. So if I close my eyes at the end of the day, kind of know where each like topic is, or I have a general idea of what the book is talking about, like in chapter 1 or in chapter 2, and I have like a mental representation of all the pages, or at least all the important pages in my book or in my notes. I can see them in my head. So when you're in the exam doing it and you see a keyword that triggers your memory, you're like, oh, I know how this page looked like, or I I know what image was on this page that we're talking about this topic. And then when I go in the book, I pretty much know where it is. I know where to find it. I know how to find it quick. And I know that that's where the information will be. Definitely, if you're a visual person or if you're not, just try to give yourself mental cues for the book. Remember specific images. So let's say chapter 3, I know there's an image with like a man eating or something that will make you have a visual map of the material. That way, again, you'll save time and you won't be browsing through the book like a crazy person during the exam. So that's all I had to say on that topic. I hope that these tips helped you out. Good luck, the person that asked me for this. I know you have exams with open books coming, so good luck for them, and good luck to everyone else. Please don't forget to give this video.
All right, I want to go and move to the next one that I want to show you. Once again, this one here. It's the same screen. See.
Academic skills presentation about online open book exams. This exam format may be new to you, and like other new experiences, you may feel a bit stressed or anxious about it. To help address these feelings, let's discuss what this type of exam will involve. Essentially, you will write a timed exam electronically while having access to your notes, text, or other resources. Although you have access to these materials, academic integrity still applies, and you must complete the exam individually. In terms of content, these exams generally require higher order thinking and include synthesis, analysis, and application questions rather than recall ones. There are a few distinct benefits to online open book exams. Firstly, this type of exam simulates conditions that you may experience daily in the working world. For example, many jobs require you to apply theoretical knowledge to a real situation, and you're expected to do this relatively quickly. Secondly, because you are typing your responses on a computer, and many students type faster than they write by hand, it might make it easier for you to focus on the concepts you are discussing rather than your penmanship. In addition, you can use word processing software to help check grammar and spelling. Lastly, this is an opportunity to demonstrate to your instructor that you have a deep understanding of the course content. However, since your instructor knows you have access to your notes and text, they will likely ask more involved questions, and you won't have time to look everything up. To help with this, prepare in advance a system to organize your course materials and take some time to study. As part of your preparations, make sure you understand your instructor's expectation for the exam and the exam structure. For example, find out information like, when will you have access to the exam? How much time do you have to write the exam? Do you need to complete the exam in one chunk, or can you take a break and come back to it later? In addition, check in with your instructor to determine what types of questions will be on the exam, what materials are you allowed to consult, and how can you ask for clarification if you need to once you've started writing. It might also be helpful to know in advance if you need to cite sources using a specific format. Next, think about the big picture objectives or major themes and topics covered in the course. You can find this information on your syllabus, or think about some of the most important readings that your instructor emphasized. This will help you figure out how you want to organize your course materials. There are many ways in which you can organize your course materials, such as study charts, tree diagrams, concept maps, reference or equation sheets, and so on. Regardless of the method you choose, consider organizing your notes based on the way the course is organized. For example, you could group information by themes, units, systems, modules, etc. Also, consider the pros and cons of paper versus digital study notes, and go with what you think will work best for your learning style. Once you've prepared your study notes, take some time to review the material using active study strategies. For example, you could make a practice exam to try, or you could discuss and teach course concepts to your classmates and friends. After you've taken time to study, solidify a plan or a system to find information quickly during the exam. For example, you could color code your study notes and mark important pages in your readings with labels. If you have digital notes, you could use highlighter tools and insert comments in key areas so that you just jump to those sections. Once it is time for exam time, there are a few other things to think about. One of the most important considerations is to try to determine how much time you should spend on each question based on the total time allotted for the exam. It is also tempting to skim through the questions to spend more time working on your answers, but take the time to highlight or underline key words in the questions to make sure you fully understand what you are supposed to be doing and can respond more effectively. Finally, since this is an online exam, make sure your technology is working properly. Consult with an IT service desk staff member if you need to, and check out this link for technical tips from Student Accessibility Services. Feel free to also contact us at Academic Skills if you would like to discuss study strategies in more detail. We would love to hear from you, and we wish you all the best on your online open book exams.
All right, guys, that's the few videos I would like you to go and basically bear in mind in terms of your exam that you need to go and know about. We need to obviously now spend time to go and do the quiz that needs to be done today. So my question to you guys, do you want to have a break before we do the quiz, or do you want to go to the quiz straight away?
Straight away.
Sir, break, sir, please.
Okay, who wants a break? Please raise your hands. Just give me the thumbs up so I know how many people want a break. Okay, the majority want a break. That's okay. I'm going to give you guys a break. I'm going to give you about, it's 43 now. Well, let's come back at 6 o'clock and we'll start at 6 o'clock. After 13 minutes, you'll be ready and we'll do whatever needs to be done. So please come back in 6 o'clock and then we'll start the quiz at that time. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. All right, guys, so this is really the end of the recording. We are going to go and start the quiz now. I just remind you all to start working for the final exam. Thank you very much for all your work, and then use your time now to be able to also finalize your assignment the way that they need to be done. Thank you all very much for all your time, and we appreciate all your hard work.